Hey, Tara, I look forward to touching base with you again this week in what has been really an interesting days in South African politics. I must concede, it's always good fun to come to Parliament. It's always great to come to Parliament on a weekend after the Springboks have won, on a weekend after Liverpool Football Club has won. And to all the Man United supporters, I just want to say to you guys, you should not walk alone. And it's a great opportunity to switch, man. Come over to the winning side. That's just my 5 cents opinion. But on more issues that are related to Parliament, I have been watching with great interest the issue of the Minister of Justice. Now, when someone holds a position of authority, they make significant influence and decisions on where matters such as loans, etc., go. Now, we've lived through an era of state capture. We've lived through a period where politicians are able to, almost in some ways, if you can survive the media storm, you don't have to deal with the question of accountability. In this particular instance, I think that we're past the media storm. This was a serious, serious violation. And I think ultimately, regardless of how the matter plays itself out, you would not be able to sustain the view that says the Minister of Justice must remain in office given the pressures that this issue is and the impression it creates about whether someone is above reproach to be able to hold the position of Minister of Justice. Therefore, I really do believe President Ramaphosa in this instance, as difficult as it is, beyond all the reports, beyond all of that, in the interest of justice, to allow the Minister of Justice to be able to step aside or ultimately to step down from her role so that we can free up the Ministry of Justice from being able to be able to do its full job. But furthermore, I think we need to amend the Municipal Finance Management Act. I think councillors are fairly low on declarations, and I think we need to give them an opportunity to be able to declare interest they may hold so that it can all be transparent. Municipalities are massive centers where a lot of money is spent, and therefore you can have billions and billions of rands flow through municipalities. Councillors need to be able to follow the same declarations procedure as anyone else is required on any other legislature. And therefore the Municipal Finance Management Act must be strengthened to ensure that councillors can account better. On the second issues, I want to direct you to an important issue that I'm deeply passionate about. Now, when we started One South Africa movement, we wanted to be quite deliberate about saying, let's give power back to the people. In fact, Judge Madlanga made such an important point by saying that, remember, that power of association must also mean power of disassociation. That you can't have laws that say power to the people, but the people only get to only vote for parties at one level, and those parties can hide the lists from them. Which brings me to a case as we went through the amendment of the Electoral Act. It has delivered a space where, like now, today, you see that in the last elections, you had 3 ballots instead of 2. But the journey is far from over, because in truth, you need to be able to know who you are voting for and where are they. Members of Parliament don't represent their jackets. They represent you. They represent you, the people. And therefore, you need to know if a hospital is burning down in Johannesburg, who is the member of Parliament from Joburg who's coming to do that? To come and represent you in Parliament. If a police station is not working in the Eastern Cape, who's the member of Parliament there? Anywhere where there are national competence issues in health, in education, in safety, in all of these facets, I do think it's important that for members to come through and be able to make sure that accountability is felt. So when we are fighting for an electoral amendment bill, this is not to undermine parties. BOSA is a political party. It has a list. But what we always maintain is that members of that list must represent a community, and a community must nominate them. And that furthermore, that must be true for all the other members of Parliament, so that when Parliament rises on a Thursday and says Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday is constituency period, let it be used for people to go to their constituencies. There's allocated funding for this purpose, so that you don't just serve in a constituency only the people who voted for you, you serve everybody. So We're going to be launching a petition on our website. I want to encourage you, go to our website, make sure you follow up. You can raise issues there, and you can tell us some of the things you want to see in terms of petitioning the government in its review of the Electoral Amendment Bill. Because when it's said and done, the future of this country requires better accountability of public representatives, and those are members of parliament. It requires that those members of parliament are located somewhere so that people can be able to vote directly for them and interact with them. And then ultimately, here's one. Do you think we should be voting directly for the president? I think so. I think the Constitution would allow us to be able to do that. This way, the president doesn't have to feel beholden to the party, but that they are actually servants of the people. That ultimately they're accountable to the people. And so that's why we continue this fight. And that's why in coming back to Parliament, I will keep that fight alive, because it's important for the broader principle of accountability and for the future of ensuring that we never have to face up to another phase of state capture. The other thing I wanted to touch base with you on is what actually our committee has been up to. Funny enough, serving on the Appropriations Committee has become quite an important duty. And today, I had an opportunity on behalf of the students of this country to invite the National Student Financial Aid Scheme to come to Parliament. We had a robust discussion with the Minister of Higher Education and the Director General and the CEO of NSFAS. Some of the issues that we raised really speak to the fact that I think we need to review what skills we need for the future, so that when we fund, there's an alignment between the skills that South Africans need, the South African economy needs, and the student we actually finance through the process. Because the last thing you need is to be financing a student only to prepare them for unemployment because they've garnered skills that are not useful in the economy. The second issue is the fact that I asked the existential question, do we in fact need NSFAS? See, the administrative issue can be managed by the Department of Higher Education to make sure that the targeted citizen, the targeted parts of the population of poor students who need to be able to get funded to go to higher education, we can direct those funds. But the mistake we can make is to set up an institution that costs more money, invests more in administration, and ultimately doesn't always deliver the value that we need towards the student. This year, we'll be funding at over 1.3 million South Africans. This is an important number of people. And I'm saying every rand and cent that is appropriated by National Treasury must ultimately end up in the hands of the students, that an introduction of further bureaucracy is not helpful. And so these are some of the issues that we need to fight for to ensure that actually students get the best benefit for themselves, and that ultimately we as a country can benefit from having a skilled population, as a population of students who are able to compete with anyone in the world. And I think it's going to be important that when we look at TVET colleges, that those are strengthened, they can deliver better, and that we make sure the throughput of learners that start at a TVET complete and those who start at a higher education don't just remain in a higher education, but look forward to days where they can exit that institution and work to contribute economically. And then we can create a tax model that ensures that we can recoup some of those costs so that the fund can keep funding more and more people. I always hold the view, if you are poor in this country, this government must be able to pay for your university fees. And the only time you get to pay is the day you find a job. So we have a responsibility for you to get through university, and the state has the duty to ensure there are economic conditions that will make sure you get a job. So with all of those, let's keep our conversation going. I am looking forward to engaging you again next week. And just keep in mind, to all you Man United supporters, I'll see you on this side. Let's build one South Africa. I'll catch up with you soon.